Namaste. I'm here today to talk about a terrible natural disaster that happened in Nepal, an earthquake that caused tremendous suffering. But I don't want to talk about the suffering. I want to talk about some of the hope and the promise that's coming out of the rubble and the ashes in Kathmandu and around the country. What's happened is that thousands of individuals are forming into loose organizations, and they're delivering relief supplies. They've stepped in where, in the remote areas where services aren't there, they're doing the work without any expectations of anything except good karma. I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the tools that they're using, some new and some old but slightly modified uses of the internet, and how that's helping to mobilize and promote change in Nepal. Why am I talking about this? I went as an American Peace Corps volunteer to Nepal in 1975. I went somewhat naively with the intention of changing the world and changing Nepal. But lo and behold, Nepal changed me, and so 40 years later, I'm still working in Nepal and worried about Nepal and concerned about Nepal. I took my family there, and we lived there for 15 years, and lo and behold, Nepal also changed them. I was on my way to Nepal when the earthquake struck. I'm heartbroken not to have gone there, not to have been there working, but it wasn't my time. And I think I can do more good for Nepal in the rebuilding phase once the relief is complete. So now the relief section is ending, and that's why I'm talking today, because I want to share some ideas about how Nepal might be rebuilt, some of the tools that might be used for that, and how maybe you could become part of that process as well. First, some statistics about the earthquake. It was a series of earthquakes, over 7.0 on the Richter scale, caused hundreds of aftershocks, and caused all kinds of post-traumatic stress for all of the people in Nepal. 9,000 dead, 16,000 injured, 1.4 million people homeless, over 600,000 buildings damaged and destroyed and maybe uninhabitable. No government is really prepared for an event like this, and Nepal certainly was not well prepared in many senses. The government and the relief agencies were slow to respond. There were some inefficiencies, there were poor communications, there was some flawed policy. But in fact, in a natural disaster of this magnitude, that's actually normal. And so there are people that are looking at it and critiquing that process and trying to determine how it could be done better for the next time, but I'll leave them that task, because I want to talk about the things that worked well in the after the earthquake. Most of the qualities have to do more with startup business characteristics instead of traditional development or relief work. These are qualities that really deal with emphasizing the power of the individual, how an individual can take action either individually or in small, loosely organized groups, and also the power of the internet, the power of the net for informing decisions and also for advocacy. And advocacy has never really been used. The internet has not been used for advocacy before in a disaster setting in the same way. I spoke of the slow government response and how the relief agencies were taking some time to mobilize, and how normal was that was. That created a gap, but it also created an opportunity, because disruptions cause gaps, and gaps create opportunities. So what happened was thousands of individuals came together in groups or small groups to try and deliver relief supplies. Now, young people, old people, Nepalis, expatriates. There was even a motorcycle touring group from Spain that was touring, and they cut their tour short because I think the roads were broken, and they went and they were delivering relief supplies. One of my friends was working with them. He said they were wonderful. So if there's anyone in the audience, thank you. Um, so the gaps create these opportunities. Some certain themes kind of emerge. What made these different actions and activities work and function well and be efficient? And one of the themes, I think, was the theme of open management. That in a disaster setting, the key to a response is rapid response, so you can get goods to people in desperate need as fast as possible. That all of these small organizations, they weren't organizations, they were loose associations and groups of people, and they formed to do this task, and then they disbanded. They had a limited time frame. They managed without leaders. They led by example rather than having a formal leadership structure. They had absolutely no bureaucracy typically, and they mostly had no rules, except the only rule being that if you take personal responsibility, if you're going to try and do some kind of a relief effort, take responsibility and make sure that you follow through and do it. The second component that led to success is the power of the internet for both fundraising and for data and data collection. Fundraising, it's not new to use the internet to fundraise, but the extraordinary thing was how in the Nepal situation, how effective the fundraising tools, the Kickstarter, GoFundMe, all of those different tools that you all know about, how effective they were in terms of mobilizing resources very quickly and getting funds to buy tarps and tents and medicine and drinking water in a very short time, and getting that into Nepal quickly. And one of the most powerful things was that these people, the main mobilizers of these resources were often the young Nepalis, and that has tremendous implication for a nation like Nepal, which is going through not just an earthquake, but a political earthquake of developing a new constitution, and that having that power of all those young people engaged in that process will have enormous benefits for the country beyond the relief stage. The more exciting innovation, I think, was the use of live data for informing people and allowing people to understand where are the urgent needs and what needs to be done where, and how many tents need to go to which village, and what are the road conditions. I told you that there were these organizations that grouped together, had volunteers. The volunteers would comb the social networks. They would call their friends and family. They would get information about how many people are hurt, how many houses are broken in a place. And Facebook and Google deserve great thanks for this. They made these services freely available. Facebook had a service where you could click and say, "I am safe." I found 40 of my friends that way. I was so worried about them. But it was an incredible thing, and so many Nepalis are outside of Nepal, so that was a powerful tool and a really great thing. And Google then took it a step further and geo-referenced that. So one of the volunteer groups changed their track and moved from doing disaster mapping only inside Kathmandu to disaster mapping of the whole country, and then putting in this live data so that the volunteers could then figure out where are the needs, who needs what when, and how quickly can you get there. Another factor was the internet promoted transparency and accountability in the earthquake response. Disasters often bring out the best in people. People cross their boundaries of race, religion, ethnicity to show their care for people. But it also brings out the worst in some people. There are some people that use disasters for personal and professional or political gain. And Nepal was not free from that. That happened. The power to shame people into good behavior was quite remarkable. And other petitions were used to challenge some government decisions on taxation of relief supplies, and they actually got the government to revise and amend their policies at least temporarily. So the power for advocacy and transparency was very, very potent. The last feature I think that was really important was the inclusivity. Nepal is a hierarchical society. And it has a very pronounced caste system, even though it's evolving. It's still very much in effect. The earthquake flattened buildings. It also flattened the differences between caste and ethnicity, and in some cases even some prejudice. So, out of necessity, you have high caste people living in temporary shelter next to low caste people and drinking from the same well. That wouldn't have happened before, but and maybe, hopefully, that breaking down of those kind of barriers will continue. So those were some of the factors and features that worked during the recovery, the relief phase. Now the challenge for Nepal, Nepal is, the spotlight will move, and Nepal will move out of the world spotlight on terms of news media and this earthquake and how people are going to respond to it, and the willingness to continue giving supplies and resources and so on. But the needs won't go away. The 1.4 million people is a huge number. It's going to be a 10-year process to try and rebuild the homes for those people. So now the challenge is, how do you use some of these tools that were so effective in this interim relief period and modify them for the next steps? And that's what's on the agenda for the Nepali people now. I'm going to continue working on Nepal issues. I'm going to continue doing what I can in terms of the forestry programs that I'm working on, in terms of livelihood promotion programs that will help to bring funds and bring opportunities for people in some of the affected villages. I'm going to continue working on social enterprise programs. And I'm also going to be working on a new initiative, Opportunities and Change, to try and mobilize teams of architects and of Nepali and architects from abroad to literally begin the rebuilding process, focusing on catalyzing retrofitting of damaged homes and rebuilding of common buildings like schools and so on. Just as Nepal changed me, I think that if you want and you open your hearts, Nepal can also change you. That I encourage you to be involved in whatever capacity and at whatever levels that you can to try to help to rebuild Nepal. If you give your time, your money, or your expertise and try to change Nepal, take a motorcycle trip and go distribute some tarps, whatever works for you. Another way you can help to change Nepal is visit Nepal now. It's still a magnificent country. It's still incredibly beautiful. It's still so powerful, and the people are so resilient. So if you allow Nepal into your hearts, it can make a change for you. I hope to see you in Nepal. Namaste.